Alright, continuing the tape, Chapter 4700, Federal Ethnic Reporting Requirements of Financial Report, United States Government, Volume 1, Part 2, Chapter 4700. 4735 for 30B for the funds for the dedicated collection. Funds for the dedicated collection are financed for the specifically identified revenue for the other supplemented for the other financing sources, which remain available over time. The specifically identified revenue for the other financial sources required by the statute to be used for the designated activist benefits and purposes must be accounted for separately from the government's general revenue account for the statement of Federal Financial Accounting Standard number 27, amended by the statement of Federal Financial Accounting Standards number 43, stated in the Federal Financing Accounting Standards number 43, modified with the definition of these funds, clarified with at least one source of funds external to the federal government that must exist for the fund with qualify as the fund of the dedicated collection of the statement of financial federal accounting standards number 43. It also added the explicit exclusion for any of the funds of the established account with a pension for the other retirement benefits, post-employment, other benefits provided for the federal employee, civilian, military, any of the material amounts funds for the dedicated collections must use the template outlined Office Management Budget Circular number A136, which shows the funds dedicated collections reporting for the SCMP consolidated basis over the disclosure fund for the dedicated collection for the both of the combined with the consolidated basis eliminations reflect with the entry of the IRA individual balances, transaction between any of the dedication collection funds significant and either required to prepare the financial statement in accordance with the accounting standards, other than propagated with the FASAB, or contact official service dedicated collections and information necessary for the government-wide statements. At government-wide level, the U.S. government balance sheets show the separate of the portion of the net position attributed with the fund for the dedicated collection, labeled links those lines accordingly. Statement of operation change in net position should file with the dedicated collection consolidated label the statement accordingly, while the note with the scope of the fund for the dedicated collection, the scope of the combined total of intragovernmental eliminations, which fund for the dedicated collections consolidated total refer to Office Management Budget number Circular A136. In addition, reclassification crosswalk will need to identify the difference with the venues presented in the standard statement that changes the net position. And the general accounting treasury accounting symbol as an E or reporting type code. The E is E reporting type code for the treasury accounting symbol to send an email to GA government treasury accounting system.team at officialtreasury.gov. The crosswalk fund for the dedicated collection amount for the activities applicable to reclassified financial statement line items additional Office Management Budget Circular number 136. Alright, 473530C for the criminal debt. For the criminal debt, permanently consistently fines for the restitution of the result of the wide range criminal activities including the domestic, internal terrorism, the drug trafficking, fire activities of high-color fraud. When an individual is sentenced in the federal criminal courts, the judge may order the defendant pay with certain financial obligations, which include the case for the assessment fine, restitution penalty, bail bond, forfeiture, entry for the Department of Justice, the Executive Officer for the U.S. Attorney for the responsible establishing policy pursuant to the collection of the criminal money penalties, U.S. Attorney responsible for enforcement, judgment, fine penalties, forfeiture for imposed with the respect of the district. There are 93 U.S. attorneys that station within the 3 of the 50 states for the Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Guam, and the Northern Marina Islands. U.S. attorneys published for the annual statistic report that contain the statistic table display of both national district caseload data covering the same many of the priority of the U.S. attorney for the both of the criminal prosecution and litigation, civil litigation. The data is supporting the annual statistic report for the obtainment of the Department of Justice for the consolidated debt collection system. Consolidated debt collection system is a system that records the debt that is being collected by the justice on behalf of the others for the included federal entities. System either the U.S. Attorney Office for the Justice for the other litigation division of the contractor private counsel office with the honor for the delinquent civil criminal debts owed by the federal government owed to the federal government. The funds collected with the federal restitution or disbursed back to the appropriate federal entity of which fund for the collected within bond forfeiture fine and assessment of the deposit of the criminal victims fund. Funds collected for the penalties are certain call for the dispute with the general funds of the U.S. government, with the U.S. courts, assist with justice for the receipt of the distribution, financial obligation, order for the criminal judgment, conduct with between the defendant within prior justice, the majority payments made satisfied with the criminal restitution received with the clerk of the courts of the office of the clerk of the court's office have payee detail for the criminal judgment to ensure the proper disbursement of the payments. No exchange revenues include the income tax, excess tax, employment tax due with the fine and penalty for the other inflow of the resourcing as arising governmental power of the demand payments of the public non-exchange the revenue shall be recognized as specifically identified legally enforceable claim to resource as derived with the extent of the collection is probable with the amount reasonable to estimate for account receivable the result of the non-exchange transaction recognition is based on the completion of the assessment process of established with identified legally enforceable claim to cash or other asset assessments recognized as accounts receivable include court action determining assessment. Federal accounting standards require that the allowance for the uncollectible amounts of established reduce for the gross amount receivable is net realizable value. Public Access Court Electronic Records, or PACER, is an electronic public access service that register for the user to obtain in the case of the document number information online with the federal appeal with the district and the bankruptcy court with the judgment of criminal case with the different forms issued. Court is a public record of the clerk of the court, the criminal judgment of the form of the relay with the case of the documents obtained with the public access for the current court electronic record of the judgment. Criminal cases include scheduled criminal monetary the penalties of the detail of the assessment fine resolutions over the evidence itself of the final judgment in criminal case, list of the payee, the demand for the resolution or for the each of the payee with the schedule for the indicated with the fine restitution or subject for the interest judgment of the criminal case is included with the schedule of the payment which lists the specific details as when payment is commenced for the frequency of the payment due for the federal entity is listed as a payee with the judgment criminal case form of the legal enforcement claims of cash, other assets established significantly any of the other entities own restitution and result of the judgment of the criminal case as required in material report and note 6 of the accounts received with the net and office management budget circular number A136. Alright, 473530D, which is also ensure the attainment of social, and determine the attainment of the chain with the social insurance amount with the required with the standard financial federal financial accounting standards number 17, 25, 26, 28, and 37 of the present with the base of financial assistance statements, social insurance with the requirements of the agencies of the Social Security Administration, the Department of Health, Human Services, of the Railroad Retirement Board, of the Department of Labor. Most social insurance information pertaining to the Social Security with the Medicare with obtained with the Social Security Administration in 2012 with the annual report of the Board of Trustees of the Federal Old Age Survey with the survivors insurance of the Federal Disability Insurance Trust for the Homeland Health and Human Services of the 2022 annual report of the Board of the Trustees of the Federal Hospital Insurance of the Federal with the Supplemental Medical Insurance of the Trust Fund of the CMS Center of the Medicaid Services actual workbook of the remaining data of the Special Service Social Security Administration and of the Health and Human Services will compare with the AFR PAR the Social Insurance information with the Railroad Retirement Board of the Department of Labor working directly with the AFR PAR, the Railroad Retirement Board, Health will provide fiscal services, especially with the amount of the current with the SCS statement of change in Social Security incomes for the data entry for the addition with the Office of Management Budget Circular number 1A136. 473530E for the judiciary activity, the judiciary for the activity of the government collect with the receive the subsequent for the manage for the protect for the account for the invest for the dispose for the cash for the other assets for the with non-federal individual federal entities have the ownership of the interest of the payment into the government unless to uphold of the non-federal individual the federal entities must have the ownership of the interest for the cash for the other assets held for the government under provision loan regulation of the other fiduciary of the agreement with the ownership of the interest of the must enforceable for the against for the government judicial remedy of the must available the branch for the government's fiduciary obligate for the federal entity share the account for the fiduciary activity which include the collection of the cash or other asset and their distribution for the non-federal owned for the benefits of the account for the federal standard statement of federal financing and the accounting standard for the number 31 on the corner for the standard. There's relatively similar government activity specifically excluded with the statement of federal financial standards number 31 reporting requirements such as payroll, rules and garnishment unearned revenue of the seized property for the standard recognized requires government fiduciary activity descriptions throughout there include with the disclosure for the addition of the government domain must enclose and the disclosure of the fiduciary account with the non-asset for the government and or they are not recognized with the U.S. government balance sheet. However, the government-wide level with the U.S. government balance sheet recognizes liability with the fiduciary fund for the funds, balance of treasury liability fiduciary investments over the U.S. Treasury security that include with the federal entity with the fiduciary and the asset federal assets entities must make some report of Treasury accounting similar there over the fiduciary. The officials for the administration of the data for the crosswalks properly to the AFR-PARs. However, both examine the other act and even the federal fiduciary activity must enter the federal and the fiduciary activity note disclosure information note 38 fiduciary activity office of management budget cycle no 136. Significant entities must include the fiduciary activity note of the SMAF of the in the government treasury accounting symbols of the F, the reporting type of the code of the request of the R, F, the reporting type code of the treasury accounting symbols of the email of the government treasury accounting symbols team at official.treasury.gov. The description of how the treasury accounting symbols will be used. Note, reporting requirements of fiduciary activities are required with the standard statement of federal financial accounting standard number 31 distinct with the unrelated with the reporting other requirements for related fiduciary category of the government intergovernmental transaction statement appendix in section chapter 4730F. 4735-30F, the reporting of the government accounting standard of the investment with officials over the approach of the federal entity with the fiduciary with the non-federal fiduciary to fund with the treasury of the government accounting standards, government accounting security with the approach of the non-fiduciary of the fund with the normally classified as non-intergovernmental with the investment in the government accounting series securities, but a non-fiduciary fund with the associated with the U.S. standards, the United States standard general ledger account with should be posted with the federal non-report. Federal attributed down with the value of the F of the corresponding federal trading part with the 020 for the treasury. For the purchase of the treasury, the government accounting series securities using the fiduciary fund, but they're not classified with the intergovernmental investment of the government accounting series securities, but the fiduciary funds associated with the United States standard general ledger for the account with the report of the federal non-federal attributed to the domain F value corresponding federal trading partner with the 020 treasury with the budgetary reporting outline only. Balance will exclude the balance sheet with the reconcile with the financial report with the report with the account with the reporting type code with attributed to the domain F of the fiduciary. No, Treasury will report with the liability federal debt with the interest payment of the federal non-federal attributed to the domain with value N for allowing with the appropriate balance sheet with the representation of the F federal financial report. 4735-30G, the Department Code for the reporting of the general fund activity, federal entity record activity, general fund must properly with the record of the activity, general the assist the preparation financial report with the refer to U.S. standards, the United States standard general ledger guidance. For all the description, each of the financial report with the appendix given the three listing of the classified financial report line with the reciprocal category designation financial statement to relate with the press refer to the appendix 11 of the general fund reporting guidance for the federal entity show with the contact with the financial officials over the Viva government-wide GT the financial attributed with the government if they are contributed they are correct trading partners signing a particular transaction. Alright, 4730H for the non-reciprocating activity as Z for the intragovernmental government. The attributed domain of the United States Standard General Ledger accounting balance the result of the transaction with the intragovernmental nature for the non-reciprocal balance with the report of the other federal entity with the attributed is limited with the reciprocal category 29. Example of the non-reciprocating activity is solvable liabilities terms recorded with the clearing actions related with the intragovernmental activity. Section 4730-30I, Federal Leasing Accounting. Statement of Federal Financial Accounting Standards. Statement of Federal Financing Accounting Standard number 54, lease of the minute of the Federal Finance Accounting Standard number 58, and number 60, replace proprietary to lease accounting disclosed for the standard of the general purpose of federal financing report. Statement of Federal Financing and Federal Accounting Standard number 54 is effective reporting periods beginning after September 30th, 2023. Early implementation is not permitted with the federal reporting entity review standards. Statement of Federal Financing Accounting Standard number 54 as amended. Federal Finance Accounting Technical Release and number 20, comment question and answer the technical release. Number 20, provide with the implementation guidance applying the requirements of the statement of the Federal Financing Accounting Standard number 54. Alright, Federal Lease Accounting Background with the standard financial statement of Federal Financial Accounting Standard number 54 require the federal leasers to recognize with the leasability, the right to use the lease and the asset, but they also refer to the lease asset of the federal lessor. Federal leasers reckon nevertheless for the lease for the receipt of the unearned revenues commencement of the lease term unless the lease meets the differential criteria for the short-term lease contract agreement to transfer the ownership of the intergovernmental lease for the statement of the federal financial accounting standard number 54 does not require the balance sheet for the recognition of lease liability, the right to use the lease assets when accounting for the intergovernmental short-term lease, but not requirements of the prepayment of the receivable payments continue to apply with accounting with the intergovernmental and or short lease activities based on the guidance provided with the statement of the purpose statement and federal financing accounting standard number 54. A lease is a contract agreement where with one entity the leaser conveys the right to control the underlying assets of another lessor for the period of the time specified by the contract agreement exchange for the consideration. Intergovernmental leave of the contract agreement occurring with the federal constitution and between the two and the non-federal consolidated and defined as the statement of federal finance accounting standard number 47, reporting entity where one entity of the leaser conveys the right to control the use of the underlying asset of another entity for the period of the time of the contract agreement exchange for the consideration. Short-term lease is a non-intergovernmental lease for 24 months or less. Alright, leases per pre-procurement acquisition versus the lease for the accounting. The definition of the constitutive lease may be different depending on the perspective of the body of the authority of the federal organization applying with the major the contact with agreement of the similar agreement of the lease of the different definition that may apply with the fields procurement acquisition legal authority which can be unique particularly for the federal unit entity as bill for the budget for some of the procurement questions of the legal definition for the contract agreement that might be the conveyance of the government right exclusive of the possession of real property defined with IP or of the land by a landlord may include the operating service of the provided by the landlord preparatory accounting definition for the defined with the Federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board of the conveyance for the right to obtain with the control of the economic benefits services for the underlying asset for the specified with the contract agreement exchange for the consideration effective federal reporting entity that may not have the leasing authority for the legal perspective that does not preclude with the contract agreement from being considered with the lease containing a lease and bundled with the consolidated procurement of the priority account with the recognition purpose of the import of the agency to complete with a comprehensive review all significant contract agreement identified with the characteristic lease for the property of the accounting recognition financial report the disclosure requirement of the current contracts. They may not be considered the capital lease or operating lease to consider the right to use the lease under the statement of federal financial accounting standards number 54 guidance and number 54 paragraph 2 defined with the right to use the lease with include the contract agreements although not explicitly identified with the lease meet with the definition of the lease in addition some of the operational lease is not currently recognized with the balance will require to be recognized with the right to use the lease of the statement of federal financing account standard with the number 54. Primary characters of the lease of the statement of federal financing account standard the number 54 include have both of the right to with the same with the economic belief of the script of the underlying and asset of the specified of the contract agreement to have the right to control the except for the economic benefit of the script of the underlying asset for the specified of the contract agreement control that must be granted with the statement of the period of time specified by the contract agreement. Agreements where control is granted for the indefinite period of the time that do not define of the lease. The rights will be obtained with the benefits for the control must be made with the exchange with the consideration contract agreements both for the lease and with the non-lease component of the agency shall still account underlying lease, non-lease, and separate contract with agreement is related for applicable for the health of the non-lease component should be accounted for as separate expense but not recorded as part of the lease for proprietary accounting purposes following with the lease for the exclusion for the consideration leave that might be considered with the lease for the procurement and acquisition purposes. Contracts agreement exclusive services lease as for the private starting with the lease term license from leases and license for the internal use of software contract with agreements for the underlying asset for the lasting identified without cancel options contract agreements for the underlying asset for the obtained without consideration contract with agreements for the underlying asset for the lesser so for the leaser retains certain rights may limit the right of the leaser to control the economic benefits services derived with the underlying asset. Contract agreement is the underlying asset for which provide and need retain with the right to control act with the economic benefits of the service for the underlying asset. Contract agreements for the underlying assets with no payment in kind with services that are provided. contract agreements with the transfer ownership of the underlying assets of the lease for their by the end of the contract agreement with the containing option for the terminate but they may continue the availability of the funds cancellation club with an unprofitable being exercised to report with the purchase of the underlying asset by the leaser as finance sale of the asset of the lesser provided any reporting any procedure requirements and preparation and implementation reporting of the requirements appear for the beginning and after September 30th, 2023. Federal reporting ended with the become of the Statement Federal Filing Accounting Standard number 54 as amended was making necessary procedure for the system change with the import of the record of the system. Statement of Federal Filing Accounting Standard number 54 is amended with the Federal Filing Accounting Standards number 60 and Treasury Report Treasury Report number 20. Provide transaction report number 20. Provided the guidance of the proprietary of the account with the report. It related with the reporting life with the general purpose of the federal financing reports. But the guidance was not extended to the budgetary accounting. The budgetary accounting leave with the federal reporting entity should be continued with the following guidance in the Office of Management Budget Circular number A11. United States Standard General Ledger Guidance to develop the United States Standard General Ledger accounts updated crosswork there. When issued, the new advisory accounting series found with the U.S. Standard General Ledger Implementation Guidance or Treasury.gov. Federal reporting entities will be required to provide the Treasury evidence of the reasonable assurance of the completeness of the leaf of the statement of the financial accounting statement number 54 amended for the government-wide financial statements. 473540 special base for the accountants standard federal financial accounting standard number 34 hierarchy generally accepted accounting principles established for the continue of the generally accepted accounting principles for the federal report of the standard federal financial accounting standard number 35 recognized the federal component of the reporting accent and either prepare publish financial statement that pursuant to the accounting of the reporting standards issued by the federal accounting standard board provide with such information of statement prepared with the conformity with the accounting standard issued by the federal accounting standard board may be regarded with the conformity with the general accounting generally accepted accounting principles per statement of federal official accounting statement with the number 47 reporting and with the consolidated and this consolidated government-wide reporting entity and or consolidated component of reporting entity may consolidate component of the subcomponent of the report entity the official statement that prepared with the federal accounting standard board government general accepted accounting principle without the conversion for the difference of the accounting policy with among the organization result of the entities reporting with the conformity federal accounting standard board with the general accepted accounting principle consistent with the standard financial standard statement of federal accounting federal financial accounting standards 34 must report their data for the governmental wide treasury accounting standard of the conformity with the federal accounting standard board generally accepted accounting principles sequence of the federal accounting safety statement board reports are provided with officials for the return and audit the information necessary for the audit government-wide website on the state using this includes information in note 5 note 20 note 42 note 38 the information that provided with the manner obtaining audit coverage may be determined in cancellation fiscal year. Significant any of the federal accounting safety statement board with the report of the ministry with the report of the Office of Management Budget number 136 section 2 for 3845 note 38 of the reclassification final system. Financial statement, a line item, the specific information may be reported significant report, any of the one in the annual financial report within the financial system. 2, the report, limited use audited financial statement that include the note 38 with the 30 with the audited note with the 38 with the audit special equipment element, federal accounting statement board with the reports utilized with the standard balance of the sheet with the illustrated with the office management, budget circular A 136 are not required to produce the number note 38 balance sheet. Significantly, entities federal accounting standards, accounting safety standard board reports calendar year should provide with classification information fiscal service the audit assurance is limited with the line item note the disclosure identified with fiscal services discussed below with the federal accounting standard board with the reporting entities provided with the treasurer associated crosswork prepared with the note 38 for office of management budget number circular 136 with the complete details or a significant any of the current federal accounting standard board reports federal deposit insurance corporation national credit union administration national railroad retirement investment trust fund the pension benefit guarantee with the corporation's Smithsonian Institute Tennessee Valley Authority who's posted officer with the federal credit system insurance corporation significant any of the year end of the September 30th are all subject to the requirements of the Treasury Financial Management Chapter Committee and of the calendar year with the will end with the September 30th accounts of the government-wide Treasury Accounting Standard Adjustment Trail based with the submission of the government Treasury Accounting Standard with the reporting workings window schedule for the head of the data. With the September 30 will be the issue of the populated reclassified financial statement of the United States Standard General Ledger Clockwork, the entity required the trim of the line items of the note disclosures contributed to the top 99% of the financial report line item data. These entities will receive the second quarter of the report of the Treasury account outlining lines of the note will require the assistance assurance as of September 30th each year with the provide fiscal year with a copy of the independent audit report with the include the result of the performed material line items note with the disclosure identifying official service to continue the significant intent of the clear calendar year and Farm Credit System Insurance Corporation, Federal Domestic Deposit Insurance Corporation, National Credit Union, and administration. 473550, the parent-child report of the parent aid with the transfer of the operation must report all the activity of the child with the financial statement of the material of the child, any with the recipient with the transfer not unless the one with the two exemptions detail apply. Parent any with the trading with the partner, any with the involved with the Treasury accounting symbol for more detail, have them reporting trade with the partner. Information please refer to the Appendix 1A and 1B. The two exemption requirement of the parent-child reporting of the Office Management and Budget Circle number 136 of the revised are the parent's executive office, the president with the end fund of the transfer of the judiciary of the Department of Justice, the U.S. Marshal of the Court Service Security, and this gives the receiving and even the responsible for the reporting all budgetary of the predatory and any activity financial statement of the trading partner, and if the police refer to Appendix 1A and 1B detail with the reporting trade partner information, government-wide Treasury accounting symbol to require the parent entity with the child entity agree on federal entity while reporting the Treasury accounting symbol with the bulk file of information. 473560, the reciprocal category. The reciprocal category is the category comprised of the table classified the financial statement, the line item of the reciprocal, each for the other. These categories are for the elimination of federal activity at the government-wide level to prepare with the financial report. In addition, with these reciprocal categories facilitate the reconciliation activity between federal entities. Please see Appendix 2 for the complete list of the reciprocal categories financial statement of which they relate. No general fund activities must report with the general government-wide Treasury accounting symbol adjustment trial base for the crosswalk reclassified financial statement of the RC of the 30 and 48 with the designation industrial the general fund activity government wide level. Alright, 473570, the treaty for the other international agreement. The treaty for the international agreement that may create the liability of the contingency may require the recognition for the disclosure within financial statements of the federal entity should consider treaty for the international agreement for the analysis of the preparation and use the annual financial statement. Treaty for the other international agreements are written against between the U.S. and sovereign states between the U.S. and an international organization provided govern the international law of the subject of the treaty for the span of the whole spectrum of the international relations, P for the trade with the defense for the territorial boundaries, human rights for the law enforcement, environmental matters, and many others. To administrate the development of the continued demand for the circular 175 procedure for the C-175 procedure, which outlines approval of paying profit of the negotiation and conclusion of internal agreements of which for the U.S. will become part of the published for the retrieve of the international agreements. U.S. on the 4th of January 1st each year for the document treaties and the 4th of the note, all of the treaties of the international agreements for the subject C-13075 of the procedure. By the example, the trade agreement at CFR 181-4G. Many routine agency level implementation requirements of Title 22 CFR 181-4A and Title 22 CFR 181-3C. It is discussed in the statement of the Federal Finance and Accounting Standard of note number 5 of the liability for the federal accounting purpose of the probability feature for the overflow with the other services of the breach over the result of the past transaction event. Standard Financial Federal Accounting System number 5 also states the probability of future overflow of the other sacrifice of the resources assessed with the base for the current facts and circumstances included in the law will provide general authority of the federal entity operations with the budget authority to fund programs if the budget authority has not been provided with the future overflow of the other sacrifice of the resource of the will show me for the probability testable and if directly relates ongoing entity of the operation to the type of the budget authority the amount routinely provided therefore to definitely apply with the both liability to cover the budget reason with the liabilities not cover the budgetary receipt sources. Per states, C-175 proceed for the federal entity for the negotiation for the conclusion of the treaty with the other international agreements on the behalf of the U.S. government and require to indicate proposed with the treaty international agreement to provide for the commitment of the furnished foods for the furnished foods, goods, services over the other measurable future financial obligation beyond the addition with the other standards authorized to approve the budget if there was the arrangement so planned carried out with the federal entity concerning the consolidation, office management, budget such commitment, same with the authorized commitment without confirmation relevant budget approved by the president required for the provides the funds adequate for the fully proposed commitment of the president to establish the seek required funds all provisions C-175 proceed with the apply when the proposed in the treaty international agreement to include with the name of the U.S. government, the name of the particular federal entity with the U.S. government for financial reporting purposes. All true, the other international agreement may be understood for the following three broad categories: no present contingent obligation to provide goods or for the financial support, no recognition or disclosure present obligation to provide goods or for the financial support or recognition. Three, contingent obligation to provide goods or for the financial support may require recognition or disclosure. Alright, no representation, contingent obligation to provide goods, service, of financial support, or no recognition of the disclosure. Treated with an international agreement, the first category does not have the result of the liability contingency ends with into force. Instead of the treaty with the international agreement, may establish a framework for the governing cooperative for the activities of the aviation safety with the other country, for the leave of the direct for the party for the engaged in such activities. Any other case of the agreement that contemplate with the cooperative the activities of creative with the non-profit continue with the obligation to engage in them. Cooperative with the activity relevant of the treaty with the other international agreements for the other involved with the action of the federal entity within undertaken as part of the regular operations fund with the regular budget. The president with the obligation to provide goods for the financial support recognition. Treaty with the other international agreements following the second category of the president obligation, therefore the rights for the liability recognition. So the president obligation related with the U.S. government to provide the financial and kind support, include with the asset of the contribution, voluntary contribution, the grant to the assistance of the international organization in which it participated as a member. Example agreements include agreement to establish the international organization owned by the government's undertook the obligations to pay with the USF, the U of the organization. Grants agreed under the U.S. government to provide with the foreign assistance fund of the other country with the grant check. Claim settlement agreement over the ways for the U.S. government agree with to pay the specific sum of the money to settle claims. Such agreement that may be entered for the specific statutory authority to undertake the obligation to spend money with liability derived from the agreements with the direct down with the unpaid amount of the due with the reporting due with the limited availability with the included amount of the due with the federal agency with the pay with the benefits, goods, services as provided under the terms of the agreement and either the reporting date with the which such for the moment for the been reported to any liability for the either fully funded with the established again with the future funding. Alright, current contingent obligation to provide goods, services, and financial support. Last code encompasses the other international agreement that was resolved with the contingency that may require the recognition for the disclosure of the financial statement. The sum of the contingency may stem with the commitments of the treaty of the international agreement to provide with the goods, services, and financial support. The future event occur with a mitigation claim with the assessment of the foreign forged by other party with agreement in such a action as an incident condition for the situation, circumstance exists, and uncertainty as a possible gain or loss happening with the ultimate result of the one or more future events that will occur and failure to occur. In accordance with the statement of federal financing accounting standard number 5 of the contingent liability shall recognize with the basis of the basic financial statement, the base of the past event change transaction has occurred with the future overflow of the other service say sacrifice the reach of the problem measure any condition liability recognition for the not meant but that is the leave of the reasonable possibility of the law of additional law that may have the incurred with the contingent liability shall be disclosed. Those regarded an integral part of the basic financial statement. The disclosure shall include the nature of the contingency with the estimate with the possible liability estimate with the range of the possible liability statement that the estimate cannot be made with the circumstances whether the recognition of the disclosure of the contingent liability rates the litigation claim with the assessment of the result of the U.S. government involved in the treaty of the international agreement of federal entities should summary of the financial treatment of the contingency recognition for the disclosure of the relative of the financial statement and annual legal letter. Legal claim is related with the treaty of the international agreement that indicate with the legal letter form on the property with the common entity with the management schedule for the summary of the proper financial treatment of contingent liability related litigation claims assessment and refer to section 47 and 45 of the 10 legal letter reporting requirements. Federal entity management must determine whether the entity has treated the other international agreement that is responsible for reporting with the federal entity has treaties other international agreement that is responsible for reporting entity with measure purpose management must. develop and implement effectively internal control of the region while ensure the proper financial reporting treaty for the other international agreement, include the review of the potential for the contingent liabilities established related with liability of no disclosure of both liabilities cover and not cover the budgetary release for each of the other of the international agreement to determine the appropriate category beyond persistent contingent obligation to provide goods for the financial support. Present obligation to provide goods and serve the financial support for the contingent obligation to provide goods and serve the financial support. Review of the General Counsel at least annually with the international agreements for the relative to the appropriate to Federal Accounting Advisory Board of the Federal Accounting Standard Board of the identify with the boundary of the report with the relay with the commitment of the contingencies in alignment with the guidance of the statement of the Federal Finance and Accounting Standard. Number 5 is a member of the recognition and disclosure of the contingent liability based on likelihood measuring of the future overflow of the sacrifice for the resources. 4740 for the management representation letter within the Office of Management Budget Circular number A136 section 4 5 of the written of the representation federal level of the management and accompanied with the summary of the uncorrect of the misstatements required of the federal entity financial statement that you have to comply with the financial report with the entity for the year end of the other September for the number 30 of the 5 of the management representation letter to the official strip of the financial manual, year-end closing bulletin for the dates for the entry of the Federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board and Federal Accounting Standards Board, report of the official calendar year ended with the requirement of the prior the representation of the shown with the Office Management Budget Audit Bulletin, Section 8, Appendix E of the Federal Entity show the tab the exact Excel format to comprehend the sum that include the uncorrected misstatement, the financial statement audited with the pleasure, and please refer to voice of the 4020 with the summary uncorrected misstatement process for the guidance for the Office Management Budget Circular number A with 136 Section 4-5, current Office Management Budget Audit Bulletin, Section 8, written with the representation for the Management Audit, Appendix E, illustrative written representation of the management of the financial statement, the current vision of the financial audit plan, Volume 2, Section 1001. Alright, 474010, the subsequent event of the misrepresented management resolution letter, the management resolution representation. Subsequent event for the purpose of the section events for the current with the written representation and for the management that have been signed with the financial statement that have been issued before the date of the specified the Treasury financial report of the United States government audit report. The events may include, for example, the enactment of the significant legislation covering the events for the effective and the realization of the aspects of the receivable statements for the settlement of the estimated liability contingency for the whether the events for the would have materially affected the amount of the report of the financial statement that would be a warrant of the disclosure of the report of the data date being specified by the Treasury and the entry for the Chief Financial Officer of the team responsible for the management must email the subsequent events for the Office Management and Budget Fiscal Service, the Treasurer, the Main, and the Government Accounting Office. The notification must include indicate the information report of the financial statement and over the required supplemental information that would be effective for the events for the information effective for the events required new revised representation, new and updated representation must be provided with no significant events for the report. The notification must specify that there are no changes. Please see the Office Management Budget Circular number A136 to illustrate the system statement that regardless of whether the significant any report for the subsequent event for the subsequent event notification must state the ending without understanding the subsequent events updated will be the Treasury, the Office Management Budget private, the financial report of the final advance of the VER, and the management representation letter. Alright, 474020, summary of the uncorrected misstatement of the profit. The significant individual must include the summary of the uncorrected misstatement as part of the financial for the management representation letter. Significant needs the year of the other September 30th. Do not have the summary of the uncorrected misstatement. The sum of the uncorrected misstatement of the federal end of the current year for the balance sheet for the SNC, for the SCNP, with the statement of the budgetary reach for the statement of social insurance for the statement of the chamber of the social insurance amounts if there is uncorrected misstatements of the representation factors required in the management representation letter. Federal entity required to provide adjusting entity with the misstatement of the summary of the uncorrected misstatement adjustment that must submit with the standard with the Excel format shown in the current year for the version of the FAM, the Volume 1, Section 595C. The show is shown in the FAM, Volume 1, Section 595C with a summary of the uncorrected misstatement that should include bold and iron curtain overall over the method of the adjusting entry that should contain the following. Effect of the current year's uncorrected misstatement that carried through the affect of the prior year's uncorrected misstatement in the United States Standard General Ledger Accounting Number, the accounting description, Federal F, General Fund G, number reciprocating Z with the non-federal M, the property of the United States Standard General Ledger Accounting, the 4, accounting effective for the A, reference and adjustment number for the documentation, reference and indication whether the management has agreed to record with adjustment the financial statement, the statement that whether the uncorrected statement is fundamental or factual, judgmental, or projected, the description of the adjustment with the amount of the debit and with the credit of the line items affecting the consolidated financial statement, the uncorrected misstatement, and identify with the audit of the federal entity of the financial statement. Please, for the example, of the adjusting and any of the summary with the uncorrected misstatement of official services. For additional guidance, due to the current Office of Management and Budget audit bills in Section 8 with the Appendix E and Office of Management Budget number 1836 with the revised Office of Management website of the Government Accounting Office, the current version of the FAM, Volume 1, Section 595C with the Government Accounting Office. 4745 legal representation letter profit the legal the reporting requirement significant evidence general counsel the master of the interim of the final legal the representation level to describe the value of the pending of the written litigation claim of the assessment of the legal counsel to be engaged devoted substantial attention for the formal legal of the consolation representation on behalf of the entity with the preparing of the legal the representation significant evidence with the general counsel must approve so consider uncertain claim of the assessment of the management consider the probable of the assertion and serve would have the reasonable possibility of the variable outcome. All pending threatened litigation while uncertain of the claim they have material level agreed upon with significant entity with the management with the auditor must report with the Apple to file with the Department of Justice the website and with the determine the material level the legal representation level the significant entity with the auditor show the seventh level sufficiently low so that the case include the legal letter the material of the financial statement of the whole and augment aggregated with all these government accounting FAM volume 2 section 1002 18 with the aggregated cases significant entity of the auditor may have two levels of segregation like described in the FAM volume 2 section 1002 19 but the similar cases are aggregated treated as compared with the individual maturity level. Second case is not included in legal letter and individual as part of the grouping. Similar case the aggravated legal representation must categorize the case that include the case of it being paid for the judgment fund having the probable or reasonable possible remote unable to determine the chance of the negative outcome of the significant everything considered the American Bar Association statement of policy regarding lawyers' response to auditors recover the information. December 1975 of the preparing legal the representation letter to the General Counsel should be referenced Office of Management Budget Audit Bulletin. For circumstance litigation claim of the assessment involved the lead representation outside counsel, the Department of Justice significantly any management in conjunction with the General Counsel control of the lead counsel when accessing the likelihood of loss estimated amount range of the potential for the long case that include the significant entity's legal representation. Department of Justice prepared the interim of the final government with a legal representation letter of the B on the review of the litigation claim of the representation report with the significant entity of the case of the material of the official financial report physical services performing the comparison of the pending of the litigation uncertain claim of the assessment forms such perform the comparison of the pending of the threatened litigation uncertain the claim of the assessment forms include with the Department of Justice government wide legal representation letter for the corresponding forms of the management schedule for the information contained with the legal letter response. This is the financial reporting profit of the management schedule include the legal letters packages submitted with the significant any official service identified with the inconsistent with between the Department of Justice and significant any of the assessment of the likelihood of the loss of the estimated amount ranges possible potential loss in these cases official services will be collaborating significant any of the reported case that comes coordinated with the efforts between the entity of the Department of Justice resolve the inconsistency. In the case more than one entity impact of the entities collaborative of the each other of the shared cases of the ensure the appropriate reporting responsible for the case that must be allocated among the impacted entities. Sure 100% of the contingency is accounted for due to the management schedule template with the government wide treasury accounting system assembled to the website. Significant any of the management must prepare the interim final management schedule for the term of the contingency, include with the legal representation level of the prepared general counsel, documentation and information used preparing for the end of the final financial statement. The following elements of management schedule must agree with the general counsel's assessment of the supporting legal representation letter form the uniform consistent circumstance, but they do not agree with the explanation provided with the FSG-wide management as schedule worksheet management template. Show the management schedule and litigation and inserted claims. In addition, significant entity management must include the accrual of the disclosure of each of the existing contingency management schedule for the relay with the preparation of the entity's financial statement of the contingency liability relating to pending threatened litigation and certain claims must be recognized and disclosed in accordance with the guidance between the statement of federal financial accounting statement with note file number 5, accounting liability federal government as amended determined as below. Financial reporting treatment of the case likelihood, future overflow, the sacrifice of the resource, the assess for the unable to determine the consistency of the disclosure requirement of reasonable possible cause. When evaluating likelihood of the loss of the contingent of the liabilities committed, any issue except for the mischief is unable to determine the assessment, the unable to determine likelihood of loss should only be the categories capable of the general counsel unable to express the opinion with the due with the inherent uncertainties. Financial reporting treatment of the case except for the unable to determine should be consistent with the disclosed requirement of reasonability with the possible the cases. Physical services will require significant with a high percentage of the unable to determine the assessment with the provide of the written documentation internal profits with the assessment with the evaluating legal cases. When evaluating the estimated amount of the range of the potential loss of the litigation claim with the assessment significant any of the claimant amount with the estimated loss of the under the analysis of the performance support with the determination claim and the best loss estimate loss significant interest anybody encouraged with the review the guidance of the same federal financing accounting statement number 5 paragraph 38 and 41 the American Bar Association statement of 4 policy regarding lawyers respond to the auditor's request information. Significant any of the internal inspector generals must submit the interim of the final legal representation letter provided with the time by the general counsel the interim final management schedule prepared by the management via the email with the official year with the Department of Justice, the Government Accounting Office. Legal representation letters are related with the management schedule concern the sense of the unclassified and should not be loaded to max government instrument with the management schedule should be representation of the information of the June 30th. Final legal representation letter must include all of the existing pending threatened litigation and unasserted claims in September, as of September 30th. Only the management schedule of these data is submitted in order to remain to commitment consistent with the reporting period within the limit of the number of the email required for the complete legal representation letter packet submission. Legal letter file with the must be combined in single file with the PDF and submitted via the email management schedule must be submitted in Excel form for the permanent time over the official year of the significant with the inspector general does not go on the template provide fiscal service with the insignificant with the management must provide the additional details required for the support. The compilation with the consolidated financial report with the preparing with the template with the providing financial service with each of the legal case with each Excel format. Official service will accept the Excel format separate submission will same do with the previously mentioned legal representation letter package. Significant X injury that must provide the current contact information and the representation available assets of official service inquiries related to legal representation legal package submission some of the significant any of the management the general counsel inspector general involved with the preparation legal representation level of the package to provide for the contact information each of the indicated with the contact provide services with the installation representation for all of the federal any participation collaboration process that will be mentioned for the end of the year end of the financial report intragovernmental transaction scorecard official year export import bank chief of the Smithsonian National Railroad retirement investment calendar year end federal entities are not required to submit internal legal representation of the management schedule for the significant inspector general management where applicable are only required to submit final legal representation letter of the management schedule. To ensure accurate complete with the financial report and discover the current liabilities financial report of the financial service official services of the review that's going to add the legal presentation and the letter of management schedule submission confirm the contingency of the detail of the legal representation level of the appropriate summary of the management schedule reporting the discover the ending financial statement in accordance with the statement of financial accounting standards number 5 of the amended significantly entities must provide explanation consistent between legal representation level of the management schedule of the reporting current intent liability of the financial statement as FSG-wide management schedule, the worksheet of the management schedule template. Significant entities require the reconcile the management schedule with the total of the amount required annual financial statement of Recon, MS, and FIM. Final statement of the workmanship of the management schedule template with an explanation variance. Identification must be provided first. Services will follow up with the discrepancy if they identify anything else that have not been explained, justified, and the significant entity. 47, 45, 20 other required information, legal representation, level, the significant entity with the inspector general, the significant entity with the management of the some of the federal aid, provided the government accounting office, the Department of Justice, the official year, information relating subsequent events, the result of the chain likelihood of loss for the estimated amount of the range of potential loss or both, effective date of final legal representation, level of the date with the determined all significant entity with the inspector general, the significant entity with the management of the federal entities, must submit over the detailed subsequent events of the general accounting office, Department of Justice, official year. Subsequent events information is based on a significant and even the material threshold of the additional guarantee for the Office of Management by Audit Bulletin Circular number 136. Alright, 4750 with the intergovernmental transaction ban with the intergovernmental transaction result of the business of the activities of the bid conducted between the two federal government entities called for the trading part with the activity differences accounting with the governmental wide finance for the reporting of the trading partners, the recording different of the amount of the transactions should eliminate with it to zero. The difference should be resolved by the end of the year. Trading partners must recognize reconcile the result of the difference of the periodic basis with the trading partners. Intergovernmental transaction guide contained with the business rule of the process for the properly record report with the reconcile intergovernmental transaction, including probable the dispute with the resolution following dependent with the guidance for the specific type of the governmental transaction. Appendix 6, investment and borrowing. Appendix 7, the benefits. 8, buy and sell. 9, transfer. 10, custodial non-entity transaction. 11, general fund of the U.S. government. The Federal Reserve System, including the Board of the Government, is considered the consolidated entity of the government-wide with the reporting entity of federal accounting standard. And please note that the Board of Government is considered the federal tax purposes. However, the government-wide reporting with the considered the non-federal lease payments for the maybe to do with the collection report, receive the Federal Reserve System report with the financial system of the federal with the government with the completing of the reporting entities. All activity of the Board of Governments of the Federal Reserve System and then all of the Federal Reserve System must be reported with the non-federal and activity. Federal executive boards are considered consolidated with the government-wide reporting under federal accounting standard. Within the federal executive boards must be reported as non-federal activity financial reporting purpose. Please refer to the Appendix 1B within the list for the disclosure of the statement of federal financing accounting standards number 47. Alright, 475020, additional entry for the governmental reconciliation requirement, intergovernmental transaction reconciliation resolution requirements are stated in the Office Management Budget Circular number A136 provides. 475030 with the federal intergovernmental transaction accounting scenario of the reconciliation of the intergovernmental difference of federal entity with the show file with the accounting principles scenario on the U.S. Standard United States General Ledger website with the scenarios provided post-logic accounting transactions, selected events occurring throughout the federal government made available to sort of the guidance. 475030 with the non-fiduciary transaction. Non-fiduciary transaction office management budget circle the require the entity to reconcile the confirm the intergovernmental activities for level the balance quarterly with the following reciprocal groupings should be provided with reimbursement example to include the not limited to legal consolation, investigation, finance, financial management, grant management, technology reimbursement, other similar should the cost of the product sold with include but not limited to the supply of the manufactured item, inventory by office space, equipment to rent vehicles, rental with the transfer appropriation to use and collection as with the unusual asset liability related operations that include but not limited to the trial transfer between federal entities based on the agreements and legal authority for the and expand the appropriation tax and fee collection of the other received for the appropriation transferable pay custodial revenue above the listing with the examples of the non-exhaustive additional examples of the each for the category make of qualified beneficiary transaction. 475030B related to capitalized purchase of assistant acquisition federal entities purchase of the capital asset properties previously capitalized asset the inventory of the federal entities must file capital asset scenario listed in intergovernmental capital asset the inventory buy sell transaction guidance. Federal entities participate in assisted acquisition must follow the assisted acquisition scenario is assisted acquisition guidance. 4750 40 intergovernmental transaction reconciliation resolution process. Federal entities must have the 3-digit trading aid or 4-digit trading main account with all intergovernmental transaction. Federal entity report the appropriate transfer with the department that must use their 3-digit trade partnering code for the federal entity should work with a federal trading partner to the federal trading partner agency and identify with the TPA, the trade partner main account, as well as the applicable activity being monitored. Alright, 4750-40A with official service with the intergovernmental activity, and these are expected to communicate work with the training partner with the IGT with the occur with the federal with the entity with the expected to work with each of the training partner broker the intergovernmental activity and ensuring strong control are placed in the effective management of the transaction, which would lead to better the reconciliation process for fewer intergovernmental differences. Recognize resolve of the federal entity with expected to minimize the intergovernmental differences before they occur. If the earlier ongoing the communication between the trading partner and the intergovernmental differences exist, the federal entity must reconcile the result of the difference of the dependence file to discover the reconciliation results. Resolution probably include the intergovernmental root cause of the corrective action plan. The dispute resolution probably in preparation for the year end of the federal entity should validate the reconciliation of the daily month of the resolve of the intergovernmental difference. Certain reciprocal categories probably the data of the submission of the governmental wide treasury accounting symbol example of reconciliating data with the reconciling data and intergovernmental treasury accounting symbol standards. Edits include RCO 7, RCO 8, RCO 11, and SRD funding. The appropriation unavailable to trust funds specified receipts. Non-expenditure transfer, unexpected appropriation financial sources, and non-expenditure transfer financial source for the capital transfers, fund balance treasury for the name of a few. Significant entities selected for the other entities that are designated as a double wild card. Appendix 1A required to explain, certify all of the material, the difference, and report. Part 1, 2, and 3, quarterly 1, 2, and 3, year-end. Federal entities will use the intergovernmental governmental-wide treasury accounting symbol of view to explain why they certify the material difference window is used to explain certain differences with the government-wide treasury accounting symbol of the block file submission. Window code the dates of officials for the government date with the key date of the government treasury accounting system reporting window schedule can be found on the government treasury accounting symbol website. Federal entities must provide with the detail and explain with the material difference between part 1, 2, and 3. The detailed explanation should include but not limited to the following. Reason of the difference exists with what is being done with the reconcile the difference for the expected the completion of the date, the limiting of the difference. Federal entities obtain with the IGT with the raw data file with the government treasury accounting symbol to be for the research of the difference. Federal entities not also to provide the detailed information about the official service that may file with the responsible official service to be with its own discretion and have the explanation file with the clarification if needed. Federal entities will also be able to obtain the following quarterly report for the government-wide treasury accounting symbol material the difference report 1 with the report the difference for the equal to greater than 100 million in a reciprocal category. Federal entities with subsection 4750 40B with the guidance for the select with the explanation of the detailed information provided. Material difference report part 2, if the applicable report the difference equal to greater than $10 million, less than $100 million, the reciprocal charge of which the following financial report ending with the encouraged to report with the inclusion of the financial report. 0000 Congress House of Senate 10100 as the architect of the Capitol 0200 Use Capitol Police 0300 Library of Congress 0800 Congressional Budget Office 0900 Other Legislative Branches 1000 Judiciary 2300 Use Tax Court 9999 Unknown Trading Partners Unidentified. Well, the type of the difference listed like those listed within subsection 4750 40B but is not required to the material of the difference report. Part of the 2 with the detailed explanation of the difference expected. Federal entities must select the part 2 difference, the type of the difference, explain the difference of the intergovernmental module government trading treasury accounting standard make the difference. Material of the difference report with the 3 with the report with the display with the amount with the RC29 with the federal non-federal domain value with the G with the non-reciprocating intergovernmental activity with the type of the difference with the like with the type of the list of the list subsection 475040B with the not recorded material of the difference report with the part 3 with federal entities must be selected with the part 3 differences. If the type of the difference must be provided with the official service the explanation why non-reciprocating intergovernmental activity is reported. The explanation non-reciprocating activity is not considered acceptable. The federal entity must provide with the official service the specific type of the activity be captured the United States Standard General Ledger. Official service may be defined with clarification if the non-reciprocating intergovernmental activity reported you for the appropriate purpose. Comparative status for the disposition report to be able to all part 1 material the difference certified with the material the difference window with the code with the contain with the material difference report part 1 reporting between the federal entity with the ends for the trading card the reciprocal category chief financial officer you the report address the result of the inconsistent amount of the explanation between the federal and the trading part of the federal entities explain and certify the material the difference for the assertion of the official service of the entity to completely comply with the term of the IGT reconciliation resolution process for the established for using 3 functions obtaining sufficient explanation for the corrective action applicable to resolve the out of balance condition obtaining an assurance of the federal entity of the performing quarterly intergovernmental reconciliation resolution occurs when the Office of Management Budget Circular number 136 revised appendix 5 ensure federal entities mutually complete with the intergovernmental material the difference and establish disposition certification report. Same trading partner of the reciprocal category make the difference incidents. No recurring difference should be limited to those situations then confirmed with official services. 475040B, and then that's it. Keeps going. It keeps going. We're going to cut the tape there at 475040B.